Am I the butthole? Boyfriend professor says. Am I the butthole for telling my boyfriend not to give lectures to me? My boyfriend is a very smart man, and he likes to talk. He will often start talking about a topic he's interested in, and keep monologuing about it for like 10 minutes. However, he will do it without caring if I'm listening to him or not, whether I'm reacting to the things he's saying or not. He will just lead a monologue whose purpose doesn't seem to be anything else than to lecture me and show me how stupid I am. As you can perhaps understand, I'm quite annoyed by this, but don't know how to handle it. A few weeks ago he was lecturing me about car engines. I literally can't even drive, and I tried just straight up telling him, hey, I'm not really interested in this, and he got offended and then started telling me I'm not interested in this every time I tried to share a piece of info, even if it was relevant to him, with him. This morning, I had trouble with my internet. I was supposed to work from home and asked him about it. He helped me, but then started explaining the issues with my VPN and how VPNs work. I tuned out after a bit because I couldn't understand a word of what he was saying and started checking my mails. Then he got offended again because I was ignoring him. I told him that I really don't like it when he lectures me and that I would like him to stop doing it. He told me that he doesn't feel like he's lecturing me. In the end, I kinda mockingly asked him whether he would prefer me to just stare at him until he gets it out of his system, since I apparently can't even tell him when I'm not interested in something. He got offended again, and the atmosphere at home was so tense, I decided to go to the office instead. I acted out of long-term built-up irritation, so the discussion was probably not very productive from my side. He seemed kinda hurt in the end too, so I'm just wondering whether I'm not in the wrong. Bemandalautamad says. So the best way to handle it is a gentle conversation. Tell him he's intelligent and he likes to share his wisdom, but it doesn't resonate with you the same way the information does with him. It can feel like a lecture, and at that point, it doesn't feel like a conversation between equals or partners. I don't think he brought it up in the healthiest way, and he sure as hell didn't respond in the healthiest way, but IDK if that makes anyone an asshole. Just try to avoid letting your feelings bubble up like that, and look for a kinder avenue to communicate. Difficult Falcon 1022 says. I don't think this is right tbh simply because op says they feel that boyfriend thinks they're stupid, or is actively saying as much. I think as a couple they need to address that, and op needs to be able to communicate that without needing to flatter the ego of their partner. Sometimes the shit sandwich approach is the right one. But not hear 'em ho. Sometimes we all need to be able to hear criticism that doesn't come with a side of chamomile tea. Furry Red Fox says. It sounds more like this is just how the guy is. These sorts of rants will happen regardless of who is in the room. I have a few friends who just get carried away with their chain of thought. Or you can assume that he thinks the person he has chosen to share his life with is an idiot. Please op, have a short conversation with a good friend of his before assuming that he thinks you're an idiot. They might just say, yeah, he's always been like that, and it might save yourself a heap of pain. Op has acted out of long-term irritation. She needs to communicate better, not him. Sunshiner Shoulders 87 says. NTA, the sound of someone in love with their own voice and knowledge is like nails on a chalkboard for me. I'm sure there are kinda ways to say it, but the fact that he knows you're not interested and keeps going, gross. My dad used to lecture us for, no joke, an average of 1.5 hours when we got in trouble. We stood at attention and he sat. He also gets hurt if another adult tells him they are not interested, but he becomes a bully if he thinks a kid thinks that way. Superiority isn't a good thing. Jamotaku says. Hello sir, would you like to hear a 20-minute speech on a topic that doesn't interest you? Me and my mom annoying the rest of the family after we learn SMTH new lol. r/am I the butthole? Sparkler Shows says. Am I the buttholer for taking my necklace away from my sister? I 16 female, attended a sporting event yesterday with my family. This includes my 1-year-old sister, whom we'll call Ellie for privacy reasons in this post. She's super attached to me, so I had her on my lap during the game. At one point, Ellie started to get really fussy and fidgety. She started tugging on my necklace and trying to put the charm in her mouth. I told her no, sweetie, and took the necklace away from her. We did this back and forth a few more times before I gave up and stuck the necklace down my shirt so she couldn't get to it. When she realized that she couldn't get it anymore, she had a very loud meltdown. My stepmom stepped in at this point, but she was absolutely mortified. She started lecturing me about being the grown-up here and that I should have let Ellie have the necklace because it would have kept her quiet. She even threw in an "I'm sorry sissy was mean to you" to Ellie. Am I the buttholer for taking my necklace away from my baby sister? Thortalk 2000 says, you were the grown-up here, and your stepmom is the one in need of a lecture about the kinds of things that should go in a baby's mouth. NTA, I can see this kid growing up without ever being told no. We have too many of those people. Sigh. Sparkler Shows says, trust me, I tell Ellie no more than either of my parents ever do. Obvanonym says, the necklace charm is a choking hazard. Your stepmother should be grateful instead of spiteful. Aggressive Cattle 320 says, NTA at 16, you have more smarts and common sense than your stepmom does when it concerns taking care of your baby sister. You did that absolute right thing. Your necklace is not a toy for a baby. It could easily be broken, baby could swallow, or choke on the charm or worse. Tell your stepmom that you were not mean to your sister, only watching out for her safety. Remind her that, as a mother, it's her responsibility to bring safe toys, to keep the baby quiet and happily occupied at such an outing. You should be proud of yourself. You are an awesome big sister and she will adore you forever for loving her so much. Samoniaudont now 70 says, NTA. I guess your stepmom won't be satisfied until she has to rush her baby to the AITA to dislodge a random item from her throat in time to prevent her from choking to death. Some children are mouthy, and that's why they make chew toys for babies that they can safely place in their mouths without the risk of swallowing them. Being the grown-up sometimes means setting boundaries, even if those boundaries cause a child, who is often incapable of understanding the boundary, to have a meltdown. You didn't do anything wrong, and the baby didn't do anything unexpected. Your stepmom should take her own advice and start acting like a grown woman. By the way, here's a true story. When I was an infant, I was chewing on an electrical cord that was plugged into a socket. My grandmother was watching me, and every time she tried to take the cord from me I started crying, so she just let me keep chewing on it to keep me quiet. I managed to chew right through it, and it burned a giant hole in the corner of my mouth. I still have the scar 50 plus years later. Am I the butthole? Efficient Radio 2794 says, am I the buttholer for quitting on my boss when they are pregnant? I'm a family lawyer who works at a small practice in a country town. My boss is the only other lawyer, and she owns the practice, although we usually have a college student intern who does a few days a week helping with certain tasks while they finish their studies. We don't have an intern at the moment, but I'm told one will be starting soon. For context, I'm paid less than I would be at a bigger practice in the city. A few months ago I was really contemplating quitting and getting a new job as I was miserable in my town for a few reasons, and then my boss told me she was pregnant. She was quite far along by this point, and I had no inkling she was trying or anything. Over the last few weeks, since she's told me, I've been shocked she hasn't tried to talk to me about how it's going to work, or what her plan is for mat leave. I overheard her telling a client at a party that I will be around when she's on maternity leave and managing her whole inbox for her. I still want to leave this job and want to do right by her by giving her as much notice as possible, but due to my own financial situation, I have my own kids to think about. I can't leave until I've saved a bit or have found a new job. That being said, I don't want to suddenly quit on her once she's had the baby. It's her first baby, and as I said, I'm her only main employee. I know deep down it's just business, and I can't put my own life on hold for her, but I do feel really guilty. She's a lovely person, and has been very accommodating as a boss in other aspects. I also feel a bit resentful as I feel like she trapped me in a sense, as she took a while to tell me she was pregnant, which is totally her private business, but it's going to affect our workplace a lot, and hasn't even once sat down to discuss with me what her plans are for the business, or ask me how I feel about it. I'm conflicted, can't tell if I'm really selfish or... Lil Hippie Pumpkin 1020 says, NTA, do yourself a favor, don't wait. It will make it harder on you to leave. Think of your family first, not hers. Oh, we're welcome 8866 says, NTA. Give her as much notice as you can, so she has a plan for work and AITA. That's the most helpful thing you can do. Leaving your job for brighter horizons is something workers do. You're not doing anything wrong. Squigs says, NTA, at the end of the day, she's your boss, not your friend. Mbop bop bop doo wop says, NTA, work isn't in our situation. It's a job, one you no longer enjoy, and are already considering leaving. Take everything else out of it. You are entitled to seek alternate employment, and, as long as you give notice, you're clear on the R front. Jersey Gerald 2468 says, NTA, but if you aren't in a position to quit right away, and you've gotten along well so far, why don't you initiate the sit down to discuss what happens when she's on leave? That can also be your opportunity to say you aren't going to stay forever, so she can make plans. Elgren1 says, your NTA regarding wanting to leave, but I can't understand why you haven't approached her to discuss the implications of her maternity leave. While she should be responsible, she may have overlooked this due to pregnancy brain, and I only say this to be generous, as I personally hate the idea that women become completely incompetent just because they are pregnant. You're being an ass yourself sitting around and wondering about this rather than speaking up. Don't leave it until she goes on maternity leave, as you surely know due dates are a suggestion and not reliable. Arrange a meeting to understand her expectations and what support you'll get managing a 2.5 person practice by yourself. Nymph the Scribe says, NTA. Do not put your life on hold. Start looking for other jobs and figuring out how and what you need to make it happen. In the meantime, don't wait for her to sit you down. Sit her down and talk to her. Ask her how she expects this all to work. Ask her what she expects of you. Ask her how long she plans on her mat leave, or whatever she is doing. Tell her that, while you understand her life and pregnancy is her business, you're having some issues with the way she has gone about this with you for the reasons you said. Especially if she is just expecting to dump everything on you and have you essentially run things for her. Then tell her what you're willing to do. Tell her you don't want to leave her in the lurch, but you're in need of something different. You're not trying to spring it on her or anything, which is why you decided you needed to sit down and have this talk, because she hasn't done it herself. If she's good about it and doesn't have a sissy fit, tell her you will make sure that you. That's all for this video. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe.